Red Table Talk is back.
I am so disappointed in you. You used to be my perfect little angel.
It's the story everyone is talking about.
But now you are nothing more than a little slut, floozy, all used up.
But no one knew.
Add that to the list of things you are. Liar, conniving, evil.
After years of suffering in silence, iCarly star Janet McCurdy joins the table for her first in-depth interview to reveal decades of abuse, manipulation, torment, and betrayal.
You're an ugly monster now. Love, Mom. Or should I say Deb, since I am no longer your mother.
At the hands of her mother. All while, Jenette starred in one of the biggest teen sitcoms of all time.
My mom would be chasing my dad around the house with a literal steak knife.
How did the abuse with your mom affect your relationships?
Ooh, that is a big, juicy question.
How she was finally able to set herself free.
Oh my God, I'm already gonna get emotional.
An unforgettable RTT not to be missed. Can you tell us about your last conversation with your mom?
Here we are again.
All right, we are back at the table.
We are back at the table.
Back in full effect. Well, you know what? Today, you came back to a really deep one. Show.
Yeah.
Brave. There's no better way to describe our guest. For years, we knew her as Miranda Cosgrove's wisecracking, lovable best friend on the hit show iCarly.
There's no wrong time to eat an egg roll.
And the spin-off Sam and Cat with Ariana Grande.
Come with me.
By the age of 15, it seemed like Janet McCurdy had it all. But at home, it was a living hell. After years of suffering in silence, for the first time, Janet McCurdy is bravely sharing her story in her new best-selling memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died. And it is striking a nerve with millions.
Wow.
Let's welcome to Janet McCurdy.
Hi.
You look so beautiful.
We feel like you're our
Long-lost niece. We've been talking about you for the last couple of days.
Welcome.
Yes. Well, let's first say, before you even start,
Yeah, but
you can't even get this book. Okay?
Yo.
I'm right, this book is sold out.
I had no expectation anything like this. And I think it's really a testament to how much people want to feel and connect with emotionally in deep ways.
Yes.
I just think that healing is so important.
Yeah.
Reading your book, it was really powerful, super brave.
Thank you.
And particularly in regards to your mom, because it's almost sacrilegious for us
Right.
to speak out against your mom. It's
Yeah,
an area
you
that
just don't touch.
With moms, there seems to be like a need to keep them up on a pedestal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had my mom on that pedestal, and it was really detrimental to my own mental health. And recognizing the abuse was such an intense journey for me, and something that I
Yeah.
wanted and felt really compelled to speak about publicly, because I had a feeling that a lot more people related to it than I hoped did.
You start the book when you were 6 years old.
6, yeah.
So tell us about your house and your family during that particular time of your life.
Yeah, my mother was initially diagnosed with breast cancer when I was 2 years old. She had a bone marrow transplant, chemotherapy, radiation, mastectomy, implant. It was stage 4. It was a really brutal time for our family, and I was 2. So my earliest flashes of memories are of a household that was very weighted in tragedy. My grandparents moved in with us during my mother's illness, and my mother, as a result of her cancer, she became a hoarder.
Jenette was raised Mormon and lived at home with her mom, Deborah, dad, Mark, her grandparents, and 3 older brothers, Marcus, Dustin, and Scott, and what she describes as a hoarder house with a rat and possum problem.
I remember a time when Marcus, Dustin, and Scott slept in their trundle bunk bed and I slept in my nursery. But now our bedrooms are so filled with stuff that you can't even determine where the beds are, let alone sleep in them. We don't sleep in the bedrooms anymore. Trifold mats were purchased from Costco for us to sleep on in the living room. I'm pretty sure the mats were meant for kids' gymnastics exercises. I do not like sleeping on mine. This house is an embarrassment. This house is shameful. I hate this house.
Wow. Yeah.
Because she was so close to seeing her fate, she suddenly attached meaning and significance to the tiny, she'd say, well, you touched that Kleenex, so I need it. So she was keeping everything that me or my 3 older brothers touched, and it just overwhelmed our house. It really did not feel like a home. It felt like a place of chaos and of turmoil and turbulence. So her cancer, she overcame it, but then it did come back quite a while later In the years between her first bout with cancer and her second, she put me into child acting, and she had always dreamt of being an actress, so I sort of was the vessel for her dreams. She did a lot of living vicariously through me.
Right,
Yeah.
and that really wasn't your dream.
I was gonna
No.
say.
Wow. I was a shy, sort of uncomfortable kid.
It's so surprising for me to hear that wasn't your dream to be an actor, because I was on iCarly, I was on the Sam and Cat vibe, and I just loved your character.
Oh, thanks.
Me watching you on the screen, in my head, I was like, yo, she's killing it.
That makes me happy.
When she was just 11, Jenette became anorexic. Soon, disordered eating consumed her life. In her early 20s, she weighed less than 90 pounds.
Wow. How did those food issues start?
I'm glad that you asked. I feel for anybody who relates to this. It's quite unfortunate, but my mom taught me anorexia. She taught me calorie restriction when I was 11. I had felt a lump in my breast that I thought was, oh, well, my mom had cancer, so I'm probably getting cancer. And she said, no, Nat, that's just boobies. And I said, well, can I stop boobies from happening? I don't want boobies. I don't want to grow up. And I knew that my mom really wanted me to stay young.
Yeah.
She really, really made that clear to me. She would sob and really clutch me intensely and say, like, I don't want my baby to grow up. And I knew me growing up would mean us separating, and I didn't want that to happen. So I asked if there was a way that I could stop the boobies from coming in, and she told me, well, there's a thing called calorie restriction.
Wow.
And it became our sort of secret and our code, and something that, as disturbing as it is, really bonded us.
Right.
It was our thing.
Yep.
No one else got this thing. We got this thing. I can look at you from across the room and know you got me and I got you. And we were just in the disease, in the sickness. But there was a connection that the sickness created that I, of course, couldn't see at the time.
Right.
Jenette paints a heartbreaking picture of her life at age 11.
I proudly show my half-eaten portions to Mom after every meal. She beams. Each Sunday, she weighs me and measures my thighs with a measuring tape. I learn the value of eating water-dense fruits and vegetables like jicama and watermelon. I learn how helpful cayenne and chili peppers are for increasing your metabolism. I learn that coffee is an appetite suppressant, so I start drinking decaf black alongside Mom. Drinking coffee in any form is technically against the church's rules. Well, it's decaf, so I'm sure God would make an exception, Mom says, and I nod like I agree, even though I'm pretty sure the God I've learned about doesn't make exceptions. The thinner I get, the stricter I get with what I'll ingest, because it seems like my body is trying to hold on to whatever I eat. I notice that most foods add a little body weight to me, 0.4 of a pound or so. I know this because I weigh myself 5 times a day.
Wow.
It was when I heard her saying things to the doctor that I knew to not be what was happening behind closed doors.
Right.
I thought maybe, oh, something's really doesn't feel right in my bones here, because my doctor's saying, your daughter's really underweight, and I would like you to keep an eye on her behaviors, because sometimes when girls develop anorexia, they're very secretive with their patterns. And my mom's saying, I'll definitely keep an eye on that, but I don't see anything off about it. And I'm thinking, she measured my breakfast today. She made sure that I had lettuce with no dressing on it for dinner last night. Like, what does she mean she'll keep an eye on it? She is the eyes on it, you know? It was confusing to hear, and I kind of started piecing together, the things that she's saying outwardly don't match what's happening in our house.
In the house.
Yes.
And what was interesting, Willow reminded me, she said that your character on that show was obsessed with food.
Loved food. It was so confusing at the time.
Right.
Being caught up in anorexia or binge eating disorder or bulimia, and then while playing this character who's like slinging a fried chicken leg, like beating people with a ham sandwich, it felt like my life was mocking me in a lot of ways, and it was really difficult.
I'd have to say one of the heartbreaking aspects of the book was one of them, was your mother having you and your 16-year-old brother in the shower, bathing you both.
Yeah.
And you were, what, 11? 11?
Wow.
So do you want to read the excerpt?
Sure, yeah. Nat, shower time, Mom shouts from another room. My whole body freezes. Oh no, not shower time. I've dreaded showers for a while, 5 years or so. Whenever it was that I started to feel uncomfortable that Mom still showers me. She doesn't mean to make me uncomfortable, I don't think. She says she has to shower me because I wouldn't know how to shampoo and condition my own hair. She says maybe if it wasn't so long or such a specific texture that she wouldn't have to. But because it is those things, and since she was a professional hairstylist, it just makes sense for her to do it. Mom showers me with Scotty sometimes. He's almost 16 at this point. I get really embarrassed when she showers us together. I can tell he does too. We usually just look away from each other, and Scott distracts himself by drawing Pokemon in the fogged glass. He does a pretty good Charizard. When she showers us together, Mom says it's because she's got too much to do. Scott asked if he could shower himself once. Mom sobbed and said that she didn't want him to grow up, so he never asked again after that. Whether or not Scott's there with me, Mom gives me a breast and front butt exam, which is what she calls my private parts. She says she wants to make sure I don't have any mysterious lumps or bumps because those could be cancer. I say okay because I definitely don't want cancer, and since Mom's had it and all, she would know if I do.
How did that affect your dynamic with your brother?
Yeah.
What a beautiful question that I appreciate for my brother. I'm so close with all three of my brothers, and they have been such a source of love and support and consistency in my life where there really wasn't much anywhere else.
Wow, that's good to hear.
Isn't it amazing? We have such a beautiful bond, and there's such an understanding there, I think, because of the things that we went through together and the things that we saw together.
I love hearing that you guys are close.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Because this kind of abuse
Yes.
can be
Deeply
tragically
divisive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I am glad to hear that you guys have a.
I
guys are
also
close.
wonder, have you ever talked to them about your mother's mental state before you were born?
Yes. Whatever continued to worsen was already happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
And before I was born, she had this 7-year affair with another person.
A year after her mom's death, Jeanette's life was spinning out of control as she battled a raging eating disorder, alcoholism, and insurmountable grief. Her dad, Mark, the man who raised her, dropped a bombshell. He was not her biological father. Deborah's 7-year affair with a man named Andrew, while she was married to Mark, produced 3 children, Dustin, Scott, and Jenette.
Wow.
My brothers sort of have memories and flashes of the affair and the tumultuous nature of my mom navigating that. And they have a couple pieces of the puzzle that I was too young to have and that I couldn't
That's
get from
interesting.
the adults around me.
Do you know anything about your mother's history? Like, did she have any history of
Like before you were
abuse
born even?
herself
Yeah.
or,
I feel like
mental
it was
illness?
something with her mom as well.
Yes. There was a very intense dynamic between her and her mother, and I saw that firsthand because my grandmother on my mom's side lived with us. Also, my mom did kind of recount experiences of sexual abuse. And she never went to therapy. My dad and my grandpa would plead with her and beg her and say, please do something about this.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, did they ever, like, try to be like, hey, like, this is really not right?
They beg.
Wow.
They beg.
Yeah.
My mom would be chasing my dad around the house with a literal steak knife, and he'd say, Deb, you have to get help. You have to get a handle on this. You can't be doing this.
Yeah.
She wouldn't. She didn't want to change or couldn't face it. She needed to change. And then eventually in therapy, after just sort of sharing stories of my relationship with my mom, they suggested that she might have had some combination of bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder and narcissistic personality disorder.
Whoa.
Maybe all 3.
All 3 together.
Yeah. The steak knife thing, that was a frequent situation.
Yeah.
There were
Yeah.
many, many versions of the steak knife and other tools. She would grab sort of whatever was on hand. And our neighbor did threaten quite often to call social services. Our neighbor, Bud, he would always pound on the door in the middle of the scream fights, and then my mom would hand him a box of See's candies and bribe him out of calling social services.
What was your grandmother's response to these outbursts?
She was always sort of erratic and kind of histrionic. Like, it seemed like she was just, if there was
That's a
any
great
sort
word,
of...
histrionic.
Isn't it a good word?
Yeah, I love that.
It's so, like, juicy.
I love that.
I just want to grab it. If there was any sort of emotion, she'd then meet it with, like, 10 times that emotion. So if my mom's crying, she'd be like, ah! And just say, like, chaos on chaos on chaos. There was so much noise in our house.
Yeah.
And then me and my 3 older brothers were always just sort of quiet.
Totally.
Because there was so much noise from the adults in the house. And I think a lot of children who experience dysfunction can probably relate to that.
Did she know about the book, your grandmother?
She does.
Oh, wait. Your grandmother outlived your mother?
Yes, yeah. She's still outliving her. She's in Kentucky in a senior citizens facility. I have very strong boundaries around my relationship with my grandma, and my brother shared with me that she was not happy with the title.
Right.
But I expected that. I'm not surprised at all.
And you have strong boundaries around your grandmother just because of...
Abuse. I tried to have a relationship with her, and it was very clear to me that she was incapable of honoring literally any boundary that I
Right,
set. I
right.
mean, Things like, can you please not comment on my body? It's really, detrimental to me, and I want to believe you have the best intentions, but these comments are really harmful.
Right.
And please, can you stop? She'd say, sure, and then 5 minutes later, another comment would come out, and she just seemed incapable of honoring the boundaries. So ultimately, it was a matter, okay, I just can't have a
Gotta
relationship
take care
with
of
this person.
yourself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also feel as though people who've grown up with you, people saw you on the screen as this
Yeah.
character, and they saw you with this seemingly fairy tale life, you know?
Yeah.
Can you read that passage from your book?
Yes. I started to thoroughly dislike fame by the time I was 16, but by now, at 21, I despise it. Millions of people dream of being famous, and here I am with fame and hating it.
It doesn't help that I'm famous for a thing I started when I was a kid. I think of what it would be like if everyone was famous for a thing they did when they were 13. Their middle school band, their 7th grade science project, their 8th grade play. The middle school years are the years to stumble, fall, and tuck under the rug as soon as you're done with them because you've already outgrown them by the time you're 15. But not for me. I'm cemented in people's minds as the person I was when I was a kid. A person I feel like I've far outgrown. But the world won't let me outgrow it. The world won't let me be anyone else. The world only wants me to be Sam Puckett. I'm aware enough to know how annoying and whiny this all sounds. Millions of people dream of being famous, and here I am with fame and hating it.
I somehow feel entitled to my hatred since I was not the one who dreamt of being famous. Mom was. I would have been content being a kid. Mom pushed this on me. Since it's not my dream, it's not my problem how I feel about it. I'm allowed to hate someone else's dream, even if it's my reality.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm aware of how whiny this sounds. I'm aware that this is what everybody wants and yearns for and hopes for and aspires to reach, but it was a really complicated experience for me. I think some people are really just equipped to handle fame and do it beautifully.
And some people...
want it.
Yes.
It's not what you wanted.
Yes. Yeah. My thought was I want to be a child.
Yeah. When your grandfather pulled you up and was like, you should be a kid. The fact that you were also the breadwinner at such a young age for your family, that had to be a whole different added pressure in feeling like, oh my God, if I don't do this thing that I actually don't like doing.
Right.
That's something I've explored a lot in therapy, is how to release that pressure ingrained in my mind and to recognize that I don't have that anymore and I just have to support myself.
How did the abuse with your mom affect your relationships?
Ooh, that is a big, juicy question. So because I was enmeshed and codependent and very anxiously attached with my mother, I found kind of relationships that reflected that dynamic.
Right.
And so I fell into unhealthy relationships where then I was supporting the other person. And I really felt like that's what I bring to the table. And it has been a lot of work to unpack. I learned to be really on the lookout for narcissistic partners. I learned to be really on the lookout for enmeshment and codependency. I'd be lying if I didn't, like, there's still a part of me that's wired that way.
Yeah.
And that's still like, ooh.
It can feel so, like, intoxicating and, like, comfortable.
It feels familiar. It feels like this is love.
Yes.
Because it's like, that's what you know. Your foundation was built on that.
Yes.
You also ran away to Hawaii with your boyfriend.
Yeah, that was pure rebellion. You know, there were some paparazzi pictures that somebody had taken of us, and then my mom found those paparazzi pictures. The relationship had been a secret from her. I understand why she was disapproving. There was a significant age difference, but I don't respect how she handled it. She sent me many scathing emails just telling me exactly how disapproving she was.
Right.
Yeah.
This is an email that my mom sent me. Dear Net, I am so disappointed in you. You used to be my perfect little angel, but now you are nothing more than a little, all caps, slut, floozy, all used up. And to think, you wasted it on that hideous ogre of a man. I saw the pictures on a website called TMZ. I saw you rubbing his disgusting hairy stomach. I knew you were lying about Colton. I had told her I was with a friend, Colton. Add that to the list of things you are. Liar, conniving, evil. You look pudgier, too. It's clear you're eating your guilt. Thinking of you with his ding-dong inside of you makes me sick. Sick. I raised you better than this. What happened to my good little girl? Where did she go? And who is this monster that has replaced her? You're an ugly monster now. I told your brothers about you, and they all said they disown you just like I do. We want nothing to do with you. Love, Mom. Or should I say Deb, since I am no longer your mother. P.S. Send money for a new fridge. Ours broke. The P.S. gets me.
Send money for a new fridge.
Wow.
Right. What was the age difference between you and Joe?
I was 18, he was 32. 14 years, yeah. And I think it was no coincidence that he and I sort of began our relationship very shortly after my mom's recurrence of cancer.
Right.
The way I see it now is sort of, okay, I knew mom's dying, I need a replacement. But something I am grateful for in that relationship is that I was hearing for the first time how unhealthy my mom was.
Right.
So when I would get an email like that, you know, my instinct was to say, I'm this terrible person. How could I have done anything like this? I would believe what she said about me. I would believe I'm a slut, I'm a floozy. And
Joe
was helpful in getting me to see that there was another side to that and
Right.
that this is really unhealthy.
When did you first recognize
Something was off.
what you were experiencing or had experienced?
When I was 11 and my mom taught me calorie restriction, a part of me knew something was off.
Right.
Also, the fact that there was so much secretiveness around it.
Right.
My gut knew it wasn't right, but I
Yeah.
couldn't accept that it wasn't right because I'm a kid and I need
it's your mother.
It's my mom, exactly. I needed her to be the thing that I wanted her to be in order to survive.
Right.
And then I saw this therapist who was the first person who told me my mother was abusive. I quit that therapist immediately, couldn't handle that information, felt like, oh, no, I can't go anywhere near that. And then when I eventually went back to therapy, it was maybe a year later when I first started confronting it and accepting it after even hearing the words abuse and then just piecing things together. It felt like I was finally making contact with reality and not living in the necessary delusion of my childhood.
Yeah. Ooh,
Wow,
that's a
the
deep one.
necessary delusion of my childhood.
Yeah, that's real.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
really just gave me chills
Yeah.
just now.
And also, just because I was abused, it doesn't mean that I don't love her.
Right.
That has been so difficult to
Yeah.
grapple with.
That's real.
Yeah.
I feel like how people identify with their mothers, like I came from you, like I was sustained from you, and you're still
Right.
treating me this. It's, I think, a little bit more like mentally and emotionally violent on the child's mind.
Yes. I feel like it's so hard, too, to not have this guilt complex because it is, this person gave me life.
Yeah.
They gave me the ultimate gift. How is there room for such complex feelings toward them? How is there room for, you know, I love my mother. Oh, my God, I'm going to get emotional.
I know. I feel you.
You know, like, how is there room for such complexity toward this person that I wish it could just be purely love. I wish it could just be purely the thing that I thought it was when I was little, but then through the exploring and excavating of everything, I just realized that there was so much more underneath it.
And how old were you then when you were able to go,
It
let
must
me
have been
deal with this?
23 or 24. Everything I said was prefaced with a disclaimer of, well, this happened, but my mom meant nothing by this. I couldn't just say the truth to my therapist. There was a disclaimer and protection and guards around every single thing that I said. And at one point, she'd said to me, like, you don't need to defend her every single time you bring her up. And that opened the floodgates. I recognized in that moment, oh, wow, I'm doing a lot of mental gymnastics here to keep my mom where I wish I could keep her. And I know that if I want to be healthy, I'm going to have to not have her be on that pedestal anymore. And it just happened.
Okay, and what was that like?
It was terrifying. I didn't feel like I had any semblance of my own identity. Confronting that I didn't have any semblance of my own identity was horrifying. I didn't know where to start. I knew, okay, I'm probably going to need to step away from acting because I don't enjoy this, but how am I supposed to do that when this is the thing that my mom wanted me to be? And how do I unpeel myself from this thing that's so, I mean, I did it since I was 6 years old. It's so wired into my identity.
Yeah.
It meant, how do I get out of an environment that was making me unhappy? How do I set boundaries with people? There were all these questions that I did not know the answers to.
How old are you now?
30.
You're 30.
When did you stop acting?
I quietly left when I was 24 and got off social media, and it just was the right decision for me at the time, and something that I did need to walk away from definitively. It was overwhelming and daunting and not easy.
That's deep, man. And kudos to you, because it's hard work.
And the fact that you didn't give up too, because you talked about having to change therapists. I've changed therapists.
When did you all start therapy?
We've been in and out of therapy for years.
Can you share a little about that?
Well, you know, Jada, I was an addict. Even though there wasn't any physical abuse, it was the emotional abuse and not being there. You know, not being present. So there's, you know, the neglect.
Wow.
And Jada was lucky, I was lucky that we had a village.
Yeah.
I had a village, and that's why she's as strong and the person that she is.
Get the tissues.
A matter of fact, can we bring some tissues out here?
Time for the tissues.
I'm good. You know I'm not the crier. You guys are the crier.
If anything, she's the crier.
She's the crier.
What's your relationship with being a crier?
That's a really good question
Yeah.
in my household, just in my mother's addiction, and I was her only child, and it was usually just the two of us, so it wasn't room, to like feel, it wasn't room to cry. I cry about everything now.
Yeah.
I call it
The
thawing out.
Yeah.
Wow.
It wasn't until 10 years ago that I just started thawing out. All of that suppressed stuff and just allowing myself to feel. So instead of me going, nope, you can't feel that, I go, yes, you can. So I actually love being the crier at the table.
I love that. I have a complicated relationship with being a crier. I really relate to everything you've just said and really suppressed for so long and just felt like I don't want to be weak. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to let other people in that way. I have so much judgment around it that's been really challenging.
I found so much power, so much strength in vulnerability. All right, we're bringing out one of our favorite, Kelly McDaniel. She is a trauma therapist, and she specialized in therapy to address what she calls mother hunger.
Thank you so much for having me back.
We love having you here.
Yeah.
I want to talk to you because this is your area.
This is what I
This
do.
is your specialty.
So many grown daughters who had very abusive mothers need this story. What does a mother actually do?
Yeah.
You know, that's not in the dictionary. Took years of clinical practice to come up with mothers do 3 essential things for their daughters. Nurture is first.
Yeah.
Protect, and then guide. And all 3 of those things, when they go missing, I call it 3rd-degree mother hunger.
Ooh.
When none of them happen, and there's abuse on top of that, so there's a fear, you bond to someone who you're inherently scared of.
Yeah.
And that destroys the relational template. It's hard to then go on and have girlfriends. It's hard to have lovers because your first love betrayed you.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like your relationship with other women. Like,
Well, it talks about in the book that you had a really nice relationship with Miranda, which I
Yes.
thought that was so...
It was beautiful.
That was beautiful. Jenette hid her mother's abuse from everyone, including her iCarly co-star, Miranda Cosgrove. After reading Jenette's book, Miranda revealed her heartfelt reaction. When you're young, you're so in your own head. You can't imagine that people around you are having much harder struggles. You don't expect things like that from the person in the room who's making everyone laugh.
I'm very grateful for that friendship. It did provide me a lot of comfort in those really challenging years. My relationship with Miranda was hugely healing to my concept of women. And
Right.
my mom was always saying, men will never really know you and they'll hurt you, but women will know you deeply and then they'll hurt you. You tell me which is worse. These are the thoughts that I'm hearing about women, not to mention my very complicated relationship with my mom and then seeing her relationship with her mom on top of it.
Right.
And I have 3 brothers who I love, and I felt this sort of trust toward boys that I didn't feel toward girls.
Of course.
Very young. And Miranda helped me to heal that relationship, but it is something that I still struggle with.
Kelly, it seems as though more people than we could even imagine
Yes.
experience this.
Yes. I see so much of it because as a culture, we don't like to think that mothers can be abusive. Really, it's called betrayal blindness.
I was going to ask, is that an example
Break that
of
down.
betrayal blindness?
Okay.
We have to believe our mother is a good person.
Yeah.
If we knew too young that she was betraying us or using us or exploiting us, we couldn't
Survive.
We don't have the wherewithal. So
Yeah.
nature protects us. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Kelly, can you talk to us about how Jenette's mom might have violated her sexually?
That's one of those things where her mother did something shameless.
Yeah.
It was inappropriate and she felt no shame doing it.
Right.
So where does that shame go? All over Jenette.
It's had to be a result of her mom's own traumas, right?
Most definitely that this has been a handed down thing. But when I'm working with a daughter,
Yeah.
I kind of don't worry so much about let's understand your mother's trauma. I kind of really want her to be able to unpack
Her own.
Yeah,
her own.
Oh, okay.
Especially since mom's not here.
Yeah.
There's no need
Yeah.
Got it.
to do that. And I
Got it.
think Jenette was already raised to be so aware of her mother's pain.
Yeah.
She was already so raised to be aware of her mother's lost dreams that what you must have had to do to even come back and feel like you get to take up space in the world.
I
Yeah.
literally couldn't name my emotions.
I mean, no.
Yeah.
I'd be sitting there and I'd go, I don't know how to describe what I'm feeling, but it's intense.
Wow. It's
And
that
could have been hers.
enmeshment, right? Is
That is the enmeshment.
You just got me all the way together on that.
Right.
That idea of
Me too.
having to make a really clear separation.
I went to get my own sort of first apartment. At this point, my mom's cancer had recurred, so it seemed like, okay.
You were around 18?
I was around 18, yeah, and it was horrifying that she had this cancer, but it also seemed like the first time that we were going to be separated. So I felt some relief around that, but also guilt around feeling the relief, and just such a complex layer of emotions.
Yeah.
I got this apartment, and then my mom handed me a copy of The Way We Were, a Robert Redford movie, that night, and was like, hey, I got you this. Do you think we could watch this movie together tonight?
Oh.
I knew that wasn't just us watching Robert Redford once for a couple hours. That was Mom moving in, and she continued to ask me every night, can I just stay over tonight? Can I stay over tonight? For about 3 months, until she just didn't ask anymore and lived with me in my first apartment. And yeah, so then we're living in this hoarding, chaotic environment again.
Right.
And I just thought, there is no escaping. There's no escaping.
And this was like a 1-bedroom apartment, right?
yeah,
When she would sleep in the bed with her.
Yeah.
hugging the whole night. And it's so complicated, too, because then there's the layer of the cancer. So she's hugging me tightly, and I feel physically how much her body is deteriorating from cancer.
Right.
How am I supposed to set a boundary?
Yeah.
And how am I supposed to look my dying mother in the eye and say, Mom, can you not squeeze me tonight? Because you're really invading my personal boundary. I didn't, and I couldn't.
This is not easy to hear for anyone.
Right.
But when a mother does this in the shower and then continues to kind of take her daughter as her own, way beyond.
Right.
It forms in the daughter's brain a psychological marriage. So this daughter is basically fulfilling the role a spouse is supposed to fill.
Yeah.
So what that does is it makes someone profoundly sexually anorexic. Wow. And then everybody starts to discuss you.
I couldn't hug people for so long. I now love hugs and welcome hugs, but it felt inherently inappropriate to me. It felt like they want something from me that I can't give.
Whoa. So did that wow, that just opened up a whole new can of worms for me in this story. Like dealing with intimacy, your relationship with intimacy in general.
Right.
It's going to be tricky. But because it's a mother, people almost want to think, well, maybe that was okay.
Exactly.
Yes.
Bro, that is crazy.
Yeah.
This kind of thing happens a lot and no one says anything.
Yes, it's hard for people to understand why nobody stepped in.
Totally.
Yeah, can you explain how abuse is pervasive in a way that it can control the whole environment?
Everybody's walking on eggshells.
Right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody's safe.
Nobody
is
knows what's
safe.
going to set her off.
And that's what the thing is that seems to be the common denominator in your story and others, is that we know what it looks like when she gets set off.
Right.
And it's so ugly and it's so terrifying that we just don't go there.
Right.
And what's sad is when her partner can't go there either. But generally, I hear it all the time.
Really?
Men won't protect the children. They'll say, I didn't know that was happening. We assumed everybody was okay.
Wow.
Mothers have a lot of power.
Let me ask you a question. After having this experience, do you think you want to have children of your own?
Ooh, Jada, I was thinking the same thing. Get out of my head.
I would never want to have a child for my own identity. That's a very, very concrete one for me. I'm at a place where, so I'm 30. I don't feel like I want kids. I have 2 nieces that I adore and a third on the way. I'm really happy to be an aunt, and right now I don't feel that I want them, but I'm also open to maybe a couple years from now or whenever something hits me and I just feel like, yeah, I do want that. But for now,
You're good.
yes.
So, Jenette, can you tell us about your last conversation with your mom?
Well, the last conversation would have been sort of a non-conversation. Her cancer had spread to her brain. She was in a hospice bed that was set up in our living room, and she was really just detached behind the eyes. So I think this thing happens when people are on their deathbed, or this was at least my experience, where everybody tries to say something to the person who's dying, like it's in an attempt to get them to wake up. My brothers had each kind of given their good news of their lives. And one of them was getting married, one of them was moving back to California. And then I said, Mommy, I'm so skinny right now. Like, the thing that I felt like was the most that I had to offer was my thinness. And I really, really, in my core at that time, I believed that that would get my mother to wake up. I believed that she cared more about my body and my weight than she did about anything else that could possibly be uttered by my brother's mouths.
True.
I really felt like that mattered more to her.
I think you even said, I'm 89 pounds.
I did.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So Nicole joins us and says Jenette's story has made her feel empowered in her own life.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Hi, welcome. What's your question for Jenette?
So, I have really connected with Jenette ever since iCarly because I grew up as a tomboy. And I did grow up in a very tumultuous household that would often escalate to verbal abuse. So I totally understand the feeling of just not knowing what's going to set your parent off. So my question is, were you ever able to forgive your mom for the behavior and for, you know, the issues that it caused?
That's a good question.
Wow. I worked toward forgiveness. Oh, God, I'm going to get emotional. I can already feel it.
It's okay.
I worked...
Good. It's all right.
I worked toward forgiveness for a really long time, and my therapist said to me one day, what if you don't have to work toward forgiveness? And I wept, and I knew that that's what I needed to hear, because I had been trying to find a way to still honor my mom and respect. I was still trying to live for her. I was still trying to find a way to make it all mean something because it had to, because it was her. And that was exactly what I needed to hear. It was hugely emotional, but my God, did it help.
Forgiving someone who has not, first of all, changed their behavior.
Yeah.
Right.
They haven't acted honorably. Do they deserve forgiveness? They personally do not. Forgiveness is a process that may eventually happen for you so that you have a loosening, but that takes its own time and permission not to give it for that person.
Right. Nicole, I hope that was helpful.
It was very helpful. Your courage gives me courage. So thank you for doing what you do.
I'm sending you a big hug.
Yeah.
We're all doing a group hug. We're all doing a group hug.
Love it.
Thank you, Nicole.
That just blew my mind about maybe you don't have to forgive her.
Yeah.
I feel like we're always trying to take the high road and I'm going to heal and I'm going to be this and I'm going to be that.
Exactly.
I just want you to know this has been a really awesome experience. We were so touched by your book.
I had so much emotion reading the book. I'm so happy for you.
I am so
Thank
happy
you
for
so
you
much.
too.
Yeah.
This has been an honor and a blessing to have you here.
I feel the same way. I really
Yeah.
appreciate all of you. Thank you so much for having me.
And as we
Absolutely.
wrap, your honesty, your vulnerability, and your voice has moved so many, including these familiar faces who wanted to send some love to you.
Miss Jenette, girl, you out here doing your thing, thriving and shining, glowing and growing. I am so proud of the hard work that you've been putting in. Thank you for personally and positively impacting my life. You're a winning queen.
My sweet angel.
Hi, Jenette. It's Mayim.
And Jonathan.
We are thrilled for your success, and we just think you're awesome.
Huge congratulations. Couldn't be prouder.
Oh my
Jenette, I just wanted to say I'm so proud of you. You're such a trailblazer and a strong voice for women to see that you can stick up and say how you feel and be your own voice. You're just so cool.
I love you.
Jenette, I am just so grateful to have you as a friend. I'm just so glad to see you saying, I'm taking back my life, I'm taking back my power, and you're doing it so beautifully.
Hey, Jenette, I just wanted to say I love you and to just keep going. Keep being great. Do you.
My name is Rosie McClelland. I know Jenette from working on Salmon Cup, and some of you may know me as one half of the duo, Sophia, Grace and Rosie from The Ellen Show. I remember this one time feeling really left out, and then I remember Jenette coming into my dressing room and giving me all of her time a massive hug. And after meeting loads of famous celebrities, I can definitely say that Jenette is the most genuine I have ever met.
Goodness.
Hey, babe. I'm so proud of you for finally speaking your truth, putting yourself first. They say that our pain is our biggest strength, and you are so powerful right now.
Hey, Jenette. I respect your bravery to revisit the experiences and challenges that earned you the wisdom we now get to admire. I'm sending lots of love, and I hope that tonight you look at yourself in the bathroom mirror dramatically and say, I know who I am in truth. I am free. I am free. I am free.
Wow. Oh my God. Thank you, everyone. Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow. That moved me.
Can I hug you?
I was constantly trying to read, trying to write. I tried to write a script called
Chicken in the Sand.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
It was great. What was Chicken in the Sand about?
Chicken in the Sand was a chicken in the sand, and everyone was very distraught.
Very
Everyone
literal
on the beach,
interpretation.
Yeah, was distraught, and it was chaos.